of a rizq, subject of provisions. And a rizq is anything that is provided for to the human beings. And it's not just money. Money is part of that. But صحة, health, wealth, children, families, good feelings that a person would have, anything of goodness, it comes under the category of provisions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ar-Razzaq. He provides, subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's the provider. And the best rizq and the best provisions that a person would attain is to be steadfast upon the deen of Allah. But when it comes to the livelihood matters, the means that we need as a necessity in this life for us to fulfill the purpose of our life, which is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the subject that concerns many people. But it's very important to, based on the proper aqeedah and the proper understanding of the deen of Islam, that we put things in the right perspective, the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants it to be. A rizq or provisions in this life, is it an objective or it's a mean? It's a mean. It's nothing but a sabab. And what's the objective? Is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, to fulfill the purpose of our life. And no matter how much a person is provided for in this life or not or whatever, everybody will return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And at the end, after 100 years from now, it doesn't really matter whether a person was rich or poor or suffered or didn't suffer. Everybody will return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What would matter then is how these provisions and how our life was for the sake of Allah, obedient to Allah, according to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. So when we put things in the right perspective, this has a great effect on our hearts, and to gain strength from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why do we need provisions? Why we go to work? Why we need to seek any means of livelihood matters? We have to put it in the right perspective again, that this is to fulfill the objective of our life, and that is to seek the help from Allah and to be obedient to Allah. And also while seeking the means, we have halal and haram. This is haram job to take, this is halal. This by itself is ubudiyah to Allah. When a person making sure that he earns what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permitted, so the means itself becomes an act of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's not just like any other means. People take the means and they don't hope anything for the means, from the means. They hope for the objective, because this is what they're working for. They're studying, they're going through difficult times because they want to attain a degree and so on. But in the deen of Islam, the objective, when it's the obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the means to it is also acts of obedience to Allah, and the person gets reward by doing so. And since we just talk about some of the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, the rizq and the qadr is, they're not separated. It's the qadr of Allah. And there's the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam in Sahih Muslim, that we were reading from Sahih Muslim. The narrator of the hadith is Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As radiyallahu anhuma. He said, سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول, I heard the messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم saying, كتب الله مقادير الخلائق قبل أن يخلق السماوات والأرض ب50 ألف سنة قال وعرشه على الماء. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wrote the maqadir, the qadr of al-khalaiq, of all of the creation of Allah, before He created the heavens and the earth with 50,000 years. And His arsh, His throne, was on al-ma' or the water. So everything is written. The rizq is already written. And the people of Jannah are also written, and the people of the hellfire are also written. So what do we do then? We have to work. We have to do actions. Because the Prophet ﷺ, when he said that, and the people as the Prophet ﷺ, should we rely upon the fact that everything is written? He said, اعملوا فكل ميسر لما خلق له. Act, because everyone, it will be made easy for him what he has been created for. Because we're talking about necessities, and the subject of al-qadr, we need revelation from Allah, wahy from Allah, to submit ourselves to it. Would we be able to understand it in this life? No. We won't be able to comprehend it. But we have necessities that will make us accept and believe and to humble ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because not everything we know. We only receive what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. But we know for a fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most just and He's the most merciful. And we know for a fact that whoever does not take the means in this life, that he is insane. We know this as a fact. So no one whatsoever, I've never seen actually in my life, I don't know, maybe you guys can, have you ever seen someone would rely on the qadr and he doesn't eat and drink? Have you anyone saw this before? It does not exist, right? Because that means he's insane, he lost his mind. So nobody would rely on the qadr that it's already written 50,000 years before the creation, that I'm going to eat this or drink this. So the food is presented and, that's the qadr of Allah. And he just doesn't do anything. He will eat and that's the qadr of Allah. After he eats, now we got to know what has been written 50,000 years before. But nobody will abstain from taking the means. So taking the means is a necessity. Necessity, that means this is part of al-ilm al-daruri. The knowledge by necessity, that means you have no other choice but to see it and to witness and to believe in it. And this is, nobody can deny this. So the same thing when it comes to the Jannah and the hellfire. Means to Jannah, the actions are the means to Jannah. Actions are mean to the hellfire. The same thing for provisions. Everybody takes the means of provisions, but to be content that everything is by the qadr of Allah, and therefore we only take what is permissible of the means. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the provider. And there's the hadith of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, which is famous by As-Sadiq al-Masduq, the hadith of As-Sadiq al-Masduq, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, As-Sadiq, the truthful one, Al-Masduq, the one that is been to believe in him, and he's the one that always speaks the truth. Like the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, Al-Quran shafi'un mushaffa'. The Quran is intercede and its intercession is accepted. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, and this hadith also in Bukhari and Muslim, إِنَّ أَحَدَكُمْ يُجْمَعُ خَلْقُهُ فِي بَطْنِ أُمِّهِ 40 يَوْمًا. One of you would, his khalq, his creation is got together in his womb of his mother for 40 days. ثُمَّ يَكُونُ عَلَقَةً مِثْلُ ذَلِكَ. That means he becomes alaqa. This is one of the stages of the embryo, another 40 days. ثُمَّ يَكُونُ مُضْغَةً مثل ذلك. Then he becomes mudgha, the chewing thing, the like of this, another 40 days. So 40, 120 days. Then after 120 days, ثُمَّ يَبْعَثُ اللَّهُ مَلَكًا. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send a malak, an angel. How the angel is sent, Allah knows best. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent an angel. فَيُؤْمَرُ بِأَرْبَعِ كَلِمَاتٍ. The angel will be commanded with 4 things, with 4 words. وَيُقَالُ لَهُ أُكْتُبْ, write, عَمَلَهُ, his actions, وَرِزْقَهُ, and his provisions, وَأَجَلَهُ, and his limits in this life, how long he's going to live, وَشَقِيٌّ أَوْ سَعِيدٌ, or whether he is wretched or he's among the happy ones, whether from the people of Jannah or the people of the hellfire. ثُمَّ يُنْفَخُ فِيهِ الرُّوحِ. Then it will be blown in him, الروح, the soul, life. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, فَإِنَّ الرَّجُلَ مِنْكُمْ لَيَعْمَلُ حَتَّى مَا يَكُونُ بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ الْجَنَّةِ إِلَّا ذِرَاعٌ. The man would work till he, meaning the actions of the people of Jannah, till he is as close as Jannah as 1 arm length. فَيَسْبِقُ عَلَيْهِ كِتَابَهُ. That means his kitab, his book of ordainment will overtakes. فَيَعْمَلُ بِعَمَلِ أَهْلِ النَّارِ. Then he would do the actions of the people of the hellfire at the end of his life. وَيَعْمَلُ حَتَّى مَا يَكُونُ بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ النَّارِ إِلَّا ذِرَاعٌ. And someone else would do the actions of the hellfire till he is close to the hellfire by 1 arm length. فَيَسْبِقُ عَلَيْهِ الْكِتَابِ. What's written in the book will overtakes, and then فَيَعْمَلُ بِعَمَلِ أَهْلِ الْجَنَّةِ. Then he would do the actions of the people of Jannah. And this is a hadith that brings so much fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hearts. But when you're talking about something, everything is in the hands of Allah, in the control of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most just and He is the most merciful. And therefore a person, if he relies upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he leaves the matter to Allah. It is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who else? What else can a person can do? There's nothing we can do. Everything belongs to Allah. So we are nothing but humble slave to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If a person, does something or whatever, we need to humble ourselves, and then again, as we see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful. And His mercy comes before His anger subhanahu wa ta'ala. And since There are other things by necessity we will take the means. So the same thing with matters of rizq and matters of acts of obedience to Allah and so on. What is related to matter of rizq specifically, the hadith also in Sahih al-Jami', which is an authentic hadith, that the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام حيث أبي أمامة الباهلي رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن روح القدس, indeed روح القدس, which is Jibreel, نفث, that means he threw في روعي, in my own, he threw in my insides, in myself, which is الروح, here is the heart. He put in my heart, revealed to me in my heart, أن نفسا لن تموت حتى تستكمل أجلها وتستوعب رزقها. That nafs, every nafs, no soul would never die. A soul would never die till it's given its full time on the face of earth. أجلها, the ajal, that means everyone is already ordained how long he's going to live on the face of earth. So nobody will die before that, which is in the qadr of Allah. Someone dies when he's 18, 60, 80, 90, it's all limits that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already set for each and every one. وَتَسْتَوْعِبَ رِزْقَهَا, and also the soul would never die unless it gets all of its rizq, its provisions that it's written for it. The same way death goes after the person, he would never miss it. The same way the rizq, the provisions, goes after the person and he would never miss it. Even if you run away from it, it will come to you. So no matter what a person do, his rizq will come to him. Do we comprehend this when it's before it happens? No, it's the secret of Allah. And you take the means and you leave the matter to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the conviction in the heart, and this is the strength of the heart of the believers. So if this is a matter of belief, then the Prophet ﷺ said, فَأَجْمِلُوا فِي الطَّلَبِ. Another narration, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَأَجْمِلُوا فِي الطَّلَبِ. So what do you do as a result of this knowledge that you have? Fear Allah, be dutiful to Allah. And أجملوا في الطلب, that means do not panic when it comes to seeking provisions. Take it easy upon your heart, upon yourself. And إجمال في الطلب is of two meanings, heart-wise and physical actions. The heart, no panic whatsoever. Don't worry about your rizq. You would worry because you're a human being. It's a normal thing. Push that away by the matters of belief, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the provider and everything is written. And physically you will take the means. But also أجملوا في الطلب, you take it easy in matters of physical provisions, is by staying away from the haram. So you don't need to do anything haram. You don't even have to do anything doubtful when it comes to rizq. Stay away from even what is doubtful. Be in the pure halal and rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if that's the case, also do not make your entire life about going after rizq, going after money and so on. Because the matter is written, yes, and it will be written whether you go for the rest of your life or less or so, then فَأَجْمِلُوا فِي الطَّلَبِ, because there are other things in life that a person needs to take care of. And then وَلَا يَحْمِلَنَّ أَحَدَكُمْ اسْتِبْطَاءُ الرِّزْقِ أَنْ يَطْلُبَهُ بِمَعْصِيَةٍ. See, perfect advice from the Prophet ﷺ. Don't let any one of you, يَحْمِلَنَّ, don't let any one of you, استبطاء الرِّزْقِ, being the rizq is late, is not coming, you're out of work, you have less money and things are getting more difficult for you. So do not let this state carries you, as the word يحملن, do not let that state that you're in carries you to seek provisions بمعصية, to seek provisions with a sin. Well, that's the only job that I find. A person would say in something haram. What can I do? I have bills to pay, I have to do this and I have to do that. That's exactly what the Prophet ﷺ is saying. He's not saying you're excused in this case. He said, do not let the fact that the rizq is being delayed for you, that you seek it with a sin. The one that created you, the one that provides for you, he's the one that forbade you from certain things. So if you stay away from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade you, what if you die, just for the sake of argument, he's the one that is going to take your soul. You're going to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's the one that gave you this life, and he's the one that is taking it away. And He subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one that has rights upon ourselves more than our own selves. So the matter is very easy and simple, but it's not like this. And even at necessity, yes, a person can do haram. Necessity meaning he's dying now, and the only thing that can save his life is to take a bite or two of something haram, as the case of the khinzir, for example, then it's permissible according to the darura only. Not difficulties, bills, and all of these types of things. This is be patient. Gain the strength. One of the means of seeking provisions, that your provisions will come, it depends on how strong your heart is upon the belief that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ar-Razzaq. You know how people take means and they go study and they get degrees and they find jobs? MashaAllah, perfect. One of the means of rizq to come to you is to have, when taking all of these means, is that your heart is very strong upon the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that will provide for you. How strong the heart is, the provisions will come. But rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So do not let this istibta'u rizq. Rizq is delayed. See the word istibta', that means it's coming, but it's just been late a little bit for you. It's by the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for great reason. Do not seek that, and it's a test from Allah. Do not seek it with a sin. And then the Prophet ﷺ said this principle in our life, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُنَالُ مَا عِنْدَهُ إِلَّا بِطَاعَتِهِ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no one will attain what's with Allah except with the obedience of Allah. If you want something from Allah, gain that by the obedience of Allah. People are either become awliya of a shaitan or awliya Allah. The shaitan, he has his helpers and supporters and those who are loyal to him when they follow the shaitan. Either to be like this or to follow the orders of Allah, to be from awliya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The hadith also, it's a sound hadith in Sahih al-Jami', the hadith of Abi Darda radiallahu anhu عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إن الرزق لا يطلب العبد أكثر مما يطلب أجله. As we said, that death goes after the person, no one will escape his moment of death. It's even more when it comes to rizq. إن الرزق, indeed the rizq, the provisions, seeks the person. لا يطلب العبد, not the opposite. Your rizq is going after you. Is looking for you. Is coming to you. Your rizq is coming to you. You're not going to your rizq. Your rizq, your provisions is coming to you أكثر, more than what his death is going after him. We have two things going after us. Right? Death is already set out, coming to you. The journey might take a day, an hour, 1 second, 2 years, 5 years, 20 years, doesn't matter, but he's coming, and a person would never miss the moment of his death. The same thing, the rizq is also said to reach the person akthar. And this is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. This is what we need to believe in. It's even more than death, because it's a frequent thing. It's every day. So in the rizq لا يطلب العبد أكثر مما يطلب الأجر. What's the outcome of that belief? As the Prophet ﷺ said, أجمل في الطلب. Take it easy on yourself. The matter is easy. It's much easier than what you think it is. Just take the means and take all of the good means, mashallah, with your heart is content, with your heart is settled, knowing that it's going to come to you, and nobody will die with less rizq than what has been ordained for him. Also, the Prophet ﷺ, as also mentioned in the hadith, which is a sound hadith reported by Ibn Tabarani and Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, have it in Silsila Sahiha, that Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, he said, أضاف النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ضيفا. The Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام had a guest. فأرسل إلى أزواجه يبتغي عندهن طعاما. He sent to his wives seeking food. فلم يجد عند واحدة منهن. The Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, he did not find any food in all of the houses of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام. No food whatsoever. And it shows how when we get worried about rizq, when our houses are packed with food, mashallah, and all kinds of means. So he said, the Prophet ﷺ said, Allahumma inni as'aluka min fadlika wa rahmatik, fa innahu la yamlikuha illa ant. Of course, we have there's many narrations where the Prophet ﷺ, he put his hand in the food and the food becomes in abundance, and 1,000 people would eat from the food that is sufficient for a couple of people. So this is miraculous things that happen to the Prophet ﷺ. Also in this, the Prophet ﷺ, Allah inspired him to make dua to teach his ummah also. So the Prophet ﷺ said, Allahumma inni as'aluka min fadlika wa rahmatik. Oh Allah, I ask you from your fadl, from your bounty and your mercy. فَإِنَّهُ لَا يَمْلِكُهَا إِلَّا أَنْتَ, because no one owns this except you. Allahumma inni as'aluka min fadlika wa rahmatik, فَإِنَّهُ لَا يَمْلِكُهَا إِلَّا أَنْتَ. And see how the dua, he did not ask specifically for a specific type of food or this specific situations, leave it to Allah. اللهم إني أسألك من فضلك ورحمتك. Allah, I ask you from your bounty and your mercy. No one owns it except you, the belief and the effect of the belief and the strength of the belief that brings and accepts the dua by the will of Allah. قال فأهدي إليه شاة مصلية. Immediately the goat or the sheep that is مشوية, I mean it's grilled, came to the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام. And it's valid to happen to anyone, right? And people would have these types of things when they turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and waiting for the mercy of Allah while taking the means. The hadith that we said is istibta' al-rizq, when the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, لا يحملن, do not make the rizq when it comes, when it's late, do not make you commit a sin. There's another narration said, لا تستبطئ الرزق. This is another command, and it's a command that many do not pay attention to this. It says, do not think that the rizq is late. But tastabti'u is your action, right? Do not, I'm not sure how to say it in proper English. لا تستبطئ رزق. You know, when there is, you're waiting for something because you're in dire need of rizq, for example. Do not think it's late. Do not think it's late. Do not لا تستبطئ الرزق. That means the rizq is set, is already set with the clear measures to you. It's not late. It's not late coming. You know, when someone, you know, the delivery guy is late, right? He's late. He's supposed to come at 8 o'clock and it's 8:15. He didn't come yet. So he's late. A rizq is never late. So even that food is never late. It's not late. Do not feel in your heart that it's late, that it's late coming. No, it's already set. You take the means and do not have that feeling inside of one, because when you think something is late, what that makes the person stressed, think bad about things. And so لا تستبطئ الرزق. Do not think that it's late or it's not going to come or something like this. فإنه لم يكن عبد ليموت حتى يبلغه آخر رزق هو له. This other narration, which is reported by Al-Hakim, and it's an authentic hadith, Sahih al-Jami', he said, because no slave would die, no human being would die till the last of his rizq would reach him before he dies. No one will die with less than what has been written for him as his rizq. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَأَجْمِلُوا فِي الطَّلَبِ. So fear Allah, be dutiful to Allah, and again, seek the provisions, but أجملوا, do not commit sins and so on. أخذ الحلال وترك الحرام. Take the halal and leave the haram. And this is the meaning of أجملوا في الطلب. Take the halal and leave the haram. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide for you. This is the effect of the matters of belief and the conditions. Of course, there's ways to attain the rizq with dua, with staying away from haram and things like this. So we seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide for us. And there's the dhikr in the morning, Allahumma nis'aluka ilman nafi'an wa rizqan tayyiban wa amalan mutaqabbala. Oh Allah, I ask you benefiting knowledge and a pure and halal rizq, and actions that is accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala Muhammad wa sahbihi wa sallam. تفضل. نعم 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 في الدعاء. Now, with regards to the dua and the qadr, does the dua pushes away the qadr? The qadr is one of the secrets of Allah, and there is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ الدعاء والقدر يعتلجان في السماء. That the dua and the qadar, they struggle with one another in the heavens. It's part of the means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created, and whatever is stronger, happens. And all of that is in the qadar of Allah. All of that is in the Lawh al-Mahfuz. Because nothing is hidden from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the same way that again when a person is hungry, he eats and he's not hungry anymore, this is even more the effect of the dua. The dua is more effective than this. When a person is in need of something, he makes dua, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hears his dua. And the dua is the most important means to attain anything. As we see, this is an act of ibadah and it has a great effect. More than, again, as we said, of the means that a person eats and is full, more than that is the dua. And the meaning of the hadith and the meaning of وَقِنَا شَرَّ مَا قَضَيْتَ, there is levels of the qadar of Allah, one of which is that it's in the qadar with the angels, for example, that a calamity or loss of things or whatever happens is going to happen to that particular person. But also, that person will make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that dua will be the means to push away that harm that is coming. So it as simple as you have something physical in this life that is harmful coming one's way, but then something pushes it away. It was coming, and you would see that if it wasn't for this, if we have to protect ourselves from the shirk and the hidden shirk, but this is the same way. So the dua pushes it away, the obedience of Allah. That's why, for example, the ruqyah, the being protected by the ruqyah and the Quran and so on from the evil of the sorcerers and the jinn. It's all means of protection is even more effective than the physical means that people protect themselves with. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His qada is always beautiful, but when it comes to the maf'ulat Allah, what we feel is we don't like loss of things and so on, and this is how to be protected from anything that is evil from that sense, and to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for strength. The second question is with regards to the dua and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a beautiful way and making the matter easy with matters of rizq. When someone makes dua in his own language and not necessarily the dua of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful. Of course, there is so much barakah in the dua of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, very comprehensive, and it teaches us exactly how to ask and what's the best way to ask. But if someone comes from him with truthfulness, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts the dua of the person. But we have to be careful not to transgress in the dua and to do wrong when a person makes dua on his own by saying things wrong. So as long as there's nothing wrong in his dua, yes, it's valid, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts.